Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I want to show you a real easy, simple meal that you can make that's especially good for hot summer days and something that you can get fresh out of your garden and in combination with some of your food storage items, and that is making a taco salad. So let's get to it and I'll show you how I do this. Now the great thing about this is that it's going to be, you can be creative with it depending on what you already have growing in your garden and what your favorite things are. So it's sort of like stir fry. You can throw it together however you want. There just may be some key ingredients you may want to think about for putting this salad together. So really it's a good hearty and healthy salad, and again, because you're going to be eating it cold, it's just really great for summertime. So the only heating that's going to be involved is browning your hamburger meat if you choose to use the hamburger meat. But if not, you can simply use black beans. Now I have black beans in here too, so if you're wanting a vegan recipe, go for black beans only. Now how I did this, and you may want to do this, I had my pre-soaked black beans. Let's just say if I'm doing vegan, I just leave the hamburger out, or not. You can do both. You can do just the hamburger, whatever you want. But pre-soak the black beans, then cook them. And then to that, you can put them in the pan, or you can just put them in a bowl separately. Or like I did here with the ground beef, is you want to brown the ground beef, and then you're going to add in your seasonings, and you want a little bit of salt. Like I've got about a half pound of ground beef here, which is probably going to be way more than we need for this particular salad for just two of us. But then I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of chili powder. Now, figure out the ratio that you want. You may not want that much flavor, but I always go for the higher end when it comes to this stuff. And again, a nice heaping teaspoon of cumin, and probably about a half teaspoon to a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And then I just, after I brown the meat, I just then add the seasonings. And then if you're just doing the black beans, you can just do this in a bowl. Make sure you strain your black beans, and then add the seasonings and mix it in real good. And I'd say let it sit for a little bit, so those seasonings get well coated onto the beans. I'm going to set that aside because I'm not ready for that yet. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our greens all together. Now what I have here is some lamb's quarter from the garden. It has seeds forming on it, and I don't worry about that. I just pull all of this stuff off the main stem. The seeds are edible, so you can throw those in, or if you prefer not to, pick them off and then set them aside, feed them to your chickens, whatever you want to do. But I'm just going to use them right in the salad. I just want to pull the bigger stems off of this. The easiest way to do it is grab it where it's strong enough and strip it down like this, and then I pull it this way for the tops. Okay, I got a couple of green onions. I'm not doing really great on onions, and my green, I only just recently got some more green onions planted out there, since my last year's ones are kind of so-so. Most of them have died off. I got several different lettuces here, and see, I'm just piling it all up here. Some of these I chopped clear back. I've got a couple of beet greens, so that's something you can add if you want. I'm just showing you some different things. Got a couple of kale leaves, some random lettuces, red lettuce. This is the red romaine. So I might make a fairly decent sized salad here. So then what I'm going to do, typically when I make a salad, I may rip it or chop it bigger, but for a taco salad, I like to cut it a little smaller. I think almost more of a shredded lettuce. So I go this way. Notice I just kind of threw all that stuff on there, and I didn't worry too much about the angle of everything, because now I'm going to go the other way. I just find for this kind of salad, having the pieces a little smaller is better. Okay, now I'm going to take all that and throw it in my bowl, and I'm using a casserole dish that has a lid, because chances are we won't eat all of this. And so I want to be able to just cover it up. Here's the lid right here. I can cover it up and then stick it in the fridge. Whatever we don't eat, we can have for lunch tomorrow. Okay, so if you're getting plenty of green onions, throw as many of those, or white or yellow onions, whatever you've got growing in your garden, into that salad. Put those in there. And I do have more out there, but I want to save them for the dinner I'm making tomorrow night, which I hope to do a video of that too. So I am going to use the store-bought yellow onion on this, a sweet onion. And I'm going to put in about a third of that. I like, in the taco salad, like lots of onions, so this might not even be enough. I might still put in more. Sprinkle that around the top there. I got the green onion in there too, so that might be enough. I don't know, I'll throw a little bit more in. I just find with the taco salad, the more onion, the better. Okay, and I got some other goodies here I'm going to be putting in later. We'll get to that in a little bit. So the next thing I'm going to do, and again, if you're doing vegan, you're going to want to skip this step. And what I recommend, if you want more of a cheese flavor to it and you're vegan, add some nutritional yeast flakes to it. Those add a nice cheesy flavor to stuff. I love that stuff on my popcorn. But since we're not vegan, I'm going to use the cheese I get from Azure Standard. And I freeze it. This is actually my last block, so I'm going to have to order some more. So I cut the cheese in half, the big, huge 5-pound blocks, and then freeze them in my glassware containers, and then just work on 1/2 of a block at a time. So I love this cheese because even after it's frozen, you can still slice it decently. And then after that, because it's been frozen, you can crumble it. It doesn't crumble as well as certain other cheeses when you freeze them, but it still breaks up pretty easy. Or you can chop it up if you want. I just prefer to crumble it up. So I got a big slice here. I would say this is well over an ounce of cheese, since that's a pretty big block. Because it could be as much as 2 ounces. I should have weighed it. Now here's a good time to go ahead and add on your beans and or your hamburger meat that's been all spiced up. And just sprinkle it over the top. Now the next thing I want to do is add some black olives. Now I do have a stash of black olives that I bought canned, and our local store, I'm guessing this is probably going to be the case all the way across the board, does not carry the Western Family sliced olives anymore. Western Family has been replaced by another brand that I don't really care for as much, at least when it comes to the olives. The flavor is just, I mean, I don't really buy much of that kind of brand stuff anyway. Okay, so it might look different because it had a bit of an interruption, so I took that time to stop and clean things up a little bit and get set up for the next part. So what I'm going to do, I was talking about those olives, and since I don't like the ones that the store is carrying now, and thankfully I do still have that stash. When we went to Costco the other day, I saw these in a bag, but they're pre-sliced, and that's what I prefer. It's always worth that little bit more than it may cost per pound. And I thought it was kind of odd to find these in a bag. I used to buy them at Costco in the big old can, and then I would freeze them up into smaller sections. So that's what I'm going to be doing with this. So that's why I have these little 1/2-pint jars out. I'm going to be freezing up whatever olives I don't use. I know I don't have enough here, but I just wanted to get out a few to show you how I'm going to do this. It's the first time I've ever bought them in a bag. And what I want to do, because I'm not really sure how much liquid I'm going to need, I don't want too much liquid in my jars when I go to freeze them. And I certainly don't want it in the salad. So I'm going to strain these out. Oh, there's a little more here than I thought. So at least it's BPA-free lining and is made with sea salt. So that's good to know. I don't, black olives are one of those things, they're kind of harder to come by in the organic and all that kind of stuff. So I do what I can to get the best ones I can. So these sound pretty good. Anyway, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the black olives next to my salad. So we'll just sprinkle a bunch on the top. Obviously, if you don't like black olives, just leave them out. Some people don't like them, which I think is crazy. I love them. We both do. But, that's entirely up to you what you want to do. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my jars. I might as well do this. At least do a little bit so you can see what I got going on here. All right, and I'm just going to go ahead and fill my jars most of the way full. Typically, that's about all the olives we need at a time. And so I'm thinking this is a good size here. And like I said, I know I'm going to need more jars than this. I just wanted to do a few to get started, just to show you how I'm going to do this. About that full. You probably don't want to get it much fuller than that. And I'm going to add just a little bit of the liquid in there. I personally don't think it's very necessary to have the liquid in there, but just in case, I'm going to put in just a little bit, because once you open this up, you're going to want it to have a little bit of moisture. But I'm freezing this, I'm not recanning it. So here we go. I've only got the liquid up to here. And then when I go to freeze it, I'm just going to set the band on there. And then once it's totally frozen, I'll then tighten that down. That's just to make sure that I'm not going to even tighten it all the way. I'll just get it to where it's on there, where I could hold it like this without the lid falling off. But that's just to make sure that my jar is not going to break during the freezing process. So I'll finish this out, at least with these. I'll do the rest later so you don't have to watch all that. And this was just a tip to show you what you can do if you get something like this in bulk. You don't want to can it or recan it. You'd prefer to freeze it. This is a good way to do it, and you're using glass instead of plastic. Okay, then the last thing I want to do is I got everything in there I want. This would actually be a good time to sprinkle on your, if you're going to use your nutritional yeast flakes instead of cheese, or maybe if you want to use them both, now's a good time to do that. And then I'm going to take my flowers, and this is to add some color, and I got one little tomato here because the day that I'm shooting this, and remember our garden is behind like a lot of people's around the country, let's see, it is July 14th, I believe. And so by the time you're seeing this, it's going to be middle of August, so we should have a lot of really ripe, yummy, ripe tomatoes ready. And so that'd be something else I'd encourage you to add if you've got tomatoes. And anyway, but to the top, and this is just to add color, I'm going to throw in my borage flowers. And I always like to make sure they're turned right side up. Throw in some golden oregano. This is going to add more flavor as well as color. Break those up. Love that golden oregano. Marjoram, I've got that too, and I'll throw in a little bit of that. Just adds a really wonderful flavor. And like I said, the color too. So these are, by the way, these are the dwarf nasturtiums. And I finally see some seed coming on my dwarf nasturtiums. I was beginning to think maybe they were sterile. They weren't going to give me any seed. So I got a few pansies here. Again, just to add color and to make the most of your garden. Get some purple in there, some orange. The more color, the better. And here's a couple of petunias. You can add those in too. I always like to rip them because they're kind of big. So you're not getting so much, just big chunks in there. And there we go. The taco salad is all ready. Now I'm going to go ahead and talk about what you're going to want to do next. So what I'll do with this though is I'll put the lid on, since we've still got a lot of time before dinner, and then I'll just put it in the refrigerator to stay chilled until we're ready to eat it. And then what you can use for salad dressing is your salsa. So you got your homemade salsa. You can use either your red tomato salsa or your green tomatillo salsa verde. And so I don't know which. I typically, for the salad, since it's got a lot of green in it already, I like to use the tomato salsa, especially since I don't have a lot of tomatoes to put in the salad. Then I'll go for the tomato salsa. These are both from 2017, so they're both 2 years old. But mostly when it comes to salsa, because we get a lot of tomatillos, I use the tomatillos for my salsa, and that way I can reserve my red and black and whatever color tomatoes, purple tomatoes, for making Italian sauces and chilies and things like that. So that's what you can use for a topping, really good. And then for an extra bonus, I've got some flour and salt and baking powder all ready to go in here. I'm going to be adding some fat to this. I like to use the organic Tropical Traditions palm shortening in this, because they have more humane practices and all that when it comes to palm shortening. And I try to avoid Crisco and lard for the most part, but lard works really good for this too. But you can use this or butter. I tend to use a little bit of both. I like to put a little bit of butter in for the flavor. But then I make my tortillas. I'm going to cut them up and then turn them into tortilla chips to eat right along with the salad. So I think that'll be really good. I used to do that. I haven't done it in a long time. In fact, I don't think I've made tortilla chips out of my own homemade tortillas. So this will be a fun thing. I've made homemade tortillas for years, but I've never turned them actually into chips. So I'm going to do that. I'll go ahead and show you a picture right here of the finished product of the tortilla chips. And if you'd like to see a video on how you can make your own tortillas from scratch, I'll go ahead and link to my recipe video right up here so you can do that. And one thing that's fun about tortillas, you can also get creative with those. And I've done them with throwing in calendula flowers, just the, the petals. Same thing with dandelions, little dandelion flowers. I tend to like to use seeds in that. I think I'm going to keep these ones just simple since I'm going to be frying them. I'm not going to add any extras. When I'm making things like burritos or soft tacos, putting in the seeds and stuff to add a little more health benefits is really good. And this is also is half organic white flour and half my own home milled organic whole wheat flour in here, and spelt too. So yeah, so there you go, an easy, great dinner for especially the summertime when you get all these good things coming in, and some stuff that you can pull out of your food storage and use as well. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.